Hello, Hayley Jepson. How are you?
I'm good, Maddie Cock. How are you?
Full named.
Have you got a middle name? I'll put that in.
Well, I'm Madeline Eileen, but only if I'm really getting told off do I get Madeline. My posh
I don't have a
name
middle name.
Do you not?
No.
Hayley Jepson.
Hayley Jepson, yes.
It's
that's
like my dad's full name, Roy Young. No messing about, two syllables.
No messing about. Yeah.
Might as well just be called Prince. Do you know what I mean? Straight down the line. So today, can we talk about self-care, please?
Ooh, my favourite subject. Well, one of them.
Well, I
love talking about self-care.
It's around, isn't it? It's a bit of a buzzy thing. There's a lot of brands talking about self-care. It's a bit of a buzzword. And I think for me, I'm feeling a bit confused. Like, what is it? Is it bubble baths and candles? What's your take? What's the Hayley view of self-care?
Well, I think what's interesting is that when I first started, I'm not going to answer the question at all, but I am. I'm going to come back.
Politician.
When I first started the Resilient Hairdresser, I was all about, burnout, boundaries, mental health, looking after your mood and stuff like that. And as I got more and more into the business and was talking to people and was thinking about it and writing more courses, what I became really sure of was that self-care is the foundation that everything else is built on. And what was missing in so many people's lives, hairdressers' lives, when they were burning out, was that they just weren't doing good self-care. And without it, everything falls to pieces. Mm-hmm. And so I became obsessed with trying my hardest to explain really well what self-care was and make it sound less fluffy, because I think it's actually vital. And so I think self-care is about how we look after ourselves. It's about the things we need to do to be our best selves at best. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's about figuring out what your bottom line is to function well.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it. And so it isn't always pampering. Like, I think it can be described as a luxury.
Yes.
And I think it is. Like, I think it can be. Facials, massages, bubble baths, that pampering side of thing is certainly part of it. But I also think it's just like, what do I need to survive? What do I need to be okay? Because I think as hairdressers, so many of us are just not concerning ourselves with that at all. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do I need to be sane? Yeah. What do I need to feel okay? It's all that stuff. And so when I think about self-care, I think about three things. And I think we often think about body, and that's why we're doing things like massages and stuff like that. And I think that's great. But I think we should think about looking after our bodies. I think we should think about looking after our sanity, however we want to phrase that. Peace, less stress, but, anything around your sanity. But also I think about self-care as looking after the connections in your life. Ooh. So I think when I teach three things around self-care. I also teach about looking after your money as well.
Yeah, well, that's
crucial, I think money is self-care. Yeah. I think it's your security in the world. But I'm thinking about that. Body, sanity, connection with others, and your safety and security in the world, which is often money.
Yeah, I love all of that.
That's what I think.
I like how stuff with you comes back to the connections and the relationship piece, because I think in business we can feel like we just operate like in a silo, like it's just us, and life's not like that at all. We're not like sort of lone wolves. And I love in particular in our shameless plug klaxon, our people pleaser to Powerhouse workshop, which we've got one coming up.
Yes.
Something that really stuck with me is when you said that self-care is one of the antidotes to people pleasing, because I'd never ever made that connection before, and that was like such a light bulb moment.
Yes.
So say more about that.
Say more about that. I think that self-care being the antidote to people pleasing is all about when we people please, we're not putting ourselves first on purpose. We're literally saying, oh, I'm going to meet your needs before mine. Mm-hmm. And we can really lose what our needs even are. When you speak to people who are really heavy in the people pleasing zone, and like, what do you need? They're like, I've never even thought about this stuff before.
Needs?
But it's also about getting valid. Sometimes people pleasing is a coping strategy, and it's about, you know, how we feel safe in the world. But one of the things to get out of people pleasing is like finding your power, putting yourself first and looking after yourself better, and knowing that it's important that you look after yourself, like you're worth looking after. And so really digging into that, when you dig into self-care and get really good at really good and solid self-care, you feel the need to people please less because you got your needs met from the inside. I know. Self-care, honestly, like I feel like every course I teach now, there's just these extra bits I've added in, which is self-care is honest to God the answer to everything. It's the answer to so much around mental health, but it's a bubble bath isn't the answer to everything. But taking care of ourselves in really basic, fundamental, sensible ways is the answer to a lot of stuff.
I love this. I feel like there's a lot of mic drop moments.
This is my TED talk. And I think it can be hard sell self-care, because if people are like, I have a facial once a month. It's all right.
But I'm like hanging on by a mental thread,
you know?
And I'm, like everything else is hanging on.
Yeah. And I think the thing is with self-care, I literally was just teaching a workshop about this recently, and self-care is different for everyone. Like what's good for me is different for you. Like what works for me might not work for you. But also what works for you last year self-care wise might not work for you this year, Maddie, for self-care. Because you're different. Your priorities are different. Your life is different. What you're into is different. You know, the expectations on your responsibility. And I think it's a moving target, self-care. And through what you needed in your 20s versus what you need when you've got 3 kids is going to be really different. And so I think there are things we can do to really look at what sort of self-care is worth it. You know, a token facial is lovely, but it's not really going to cut it for everyone. It's not possible for everyone. And I don't think self-care has to be expensive.
No, that's,
the thing as well.
It doesn't have to be bougie. It can, I guess it can
be. It can be seen as this luxury, you know, of expensive facials and spas and stuff like that. And I think self-care, it's free. Lots of it. Yeah. So, well, I've got a question for you, Maddie.
Yes.
Based on this, what are you doing for self-care for yourself? Like when you think about self-care, what are you doing?
So it's interesting that you say about the different stages in life, because I think a lot of my self-care now, my younger self would have been absolutely like loathed to hear how I take care of myself.
She rolling her eyes.
She's like, oh God, she turned into one of them. Stopping drinking, I attribute to one of the greatest gifts I ever give myself. For many reasons. I mean, I got the nickname Frank the Tank because if I had one drink, you might as well have 15 drinks and stay out as long as you can stay out and all this. And my hangovers were rotten, and I was so unproductive. I was not creative. I just sucked really. So that changed things massively for me. It also makes me feel safe in a weird way. Like I feel, you know, if you've ever walked around Big Market in Newcastle on a Friday night, like sober, that's a really weird place to be. But like, I love being sober. I love that I can just drive places. I love feeling really like responsible, and that I can just, you know, if you need me, not that I'm being people pleasing, but you can support people and whatnot, and drive to the tip and all the other magical things. So that was one. That's a massive one for me, and young me would be absolutely livid. Being a 5 a.m. wanker, getting up, going to the gym.
Oh, I do think that is quite wanker.
I know. I hate it. I hate that I love it so much. I was doing the 9:30 PT, which was much more my speed, but because of ADHD, I felt like I was in the waiting mode, so I couldn't do anything before. So I wasn't able to start my day till like 11, and I was like, this is too late in the day. So I went.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, though.
Yeah, I went to like my best friend was in the 5:45, and I was like, I'll just come to 1 and I'll hate it. And then I did 1, and I was home by like 7, and I thought, well, this is pretty good. Actually, there's no traffic. I can go a 24-hour Tesco, do my food shopping. I feel like I got a whole extra day, and I was like, oh, this is a bit of a life hack, which I like.
Do you literally get up and go straight there like nothing before
I literally have my gym clothes folded where my feet fall out of the bed. So it's like I can't do anything but just put my clothes on and go. I have like pre-workout. That's like the powder's already in the cup, ready to put water in. So I make that as like easy as humanly possible. And it's really near. It's like 7-minute drive. And that again for like self-care, like to the point where when I don't do that, like the days I don't train, I'm like, going on walks a free thing. I love walking. I'm really lucky where I live at the coast. I love my walk and talks with you, where we'll sometimes chat on the phone. And
I'm worried about the rain affecting that, Maddie, soon.
Well, I'm trying to get more outdoor ones in at the minute, because when it's bad weather, I go on the treadmill at the gym. So you could do your Peloton. I could be on my walking.
I don't think I could talk to you when I'm on my Peloton.
Same.
I'm going to be honest.
I get really sweaty and breathy. We'll work it out, or we'll sit and watch The Office together or something on the phone. But on that note as well, like connections, like super, super important to me, and that like fills my cup massively. Again, another thing that's free. I'm really lucky that I live physically close to most of my best friends, so we make sure we see a lot of each other. We go for walks and walk the dog and see the kids and all that. But speaking of like the different periods, like for me in the lockdown, literally leaving the house was like self-care, because I worked from from home. I was sometimes working like 14 hours on my laptop, and I remember once it was like 6 days that I hadn't left the house. I was in a 1-bedroom flat. I was like, oh, okay. And I was eating really badly, like not badly, but I was like, every day I was like, oh, I need a dessert, I need a takeaway and all it. So yeah, it's definitely like it's certain periods, and I feel when I get close to burnout, and I learned this from you, I go, what in my diary is not absolutely crucial for me to do?
Yeah.
And I just kick them all down the road. As you say, I channel Haley and I go, what can I not do? Like, what will, if I take this out of my calendar, the world doesn't end. And actually, you're always amazed, because like a third or a half of the things don't actually need to be there. They're just sort of in there. Yeah. So being mindful of how I feel when that's starting to happen, like that sort of overwhelming stuff. So yeah, those are probably mine for the time being. What about yours?
Mine are really easy. I have really basic things that I do. I think people will think that my self-care is complex, elaborate and fancy. And I think the more I know about it, the more simple I really keep it. But mine kind of has levels, my self-care. There's like really, really basic stuff. And then I'm like, anything over that is a bonus.
Right, okay.
And so I have really simple rules that I kind of have rules for life, and I have simple rules that I try and do every day, and they're flexible, because I don't want too many rules, because that makes me rebel and not do them. But I also think what's interesting is, I mean, it sounds vague that, but I'll be more precise in a minute. But I think often for me, not doing my self-care is the self-care.
Ooh,
do you know what I mean? And
say that one more time. Say that again.
Sometimes not doing the self-care is the self-care. And so you can get into phases. And so like, I'll use you as an example, actually, because I've heard all about yours. Sometimes the self-care you need might be to not go to the gym one day at 5:45 and have a lie-in.
Yeah.
That actually might be better. You might just think to yourself, I need a few more hours sleep more than that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Totally. And sometimes the self-care is cancelling the night out because it's often when you're getting, like you said, a bit burnt out on the road, exhausted, the stuff that we do to keep ourselves well, sometimes just not doing it for a little bit is the answer. And I'm in a little phase of that actually this week. I've messaged my personal trainer last week and said, do you know what? I'm not going to come next week because I already know it's my only opportunity for a lie-in that day, and I really need it because I've been traveling with work a lot. And what I'm noticing is when I travel with work, I need recovery. And I didn't know that until I started traveling. And so I had things booked in. And now I'm like, oh no, there needs to be a little recovery. It's something about sleeping in hotels and stuff. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing now that I need a bit more downtime than I thought when I come back from places.
I like this idea of like rules or like protocols. I listen to a lot of Dr. Huberman, so I do like a protocol.
Is he a protocol person?
He's a neurobiologist, very, very clever dude. Does like insanely long podcasts.
I've listened to a couple. Yeah.
Really, really smart guy. But he talks about protocols. He has a lot of them. We have them like after travel. So like I literally block a week after. I mean, we obviously go away for quite a long time, but I have a full week.
And in different time zones.
I block everything out and I just say no calls, no calls, no calls, no calls. Because you of the past will be like, oh, I'll be fine. It's just a bit of jet lag. I'll be okay to do something at 2. I remember missing a call with my coach. Literally, I slept through it and it was at 2:30 because I was so jet lagged. It's like horrible. So we learn lessons and go, that sucked. How can we not have that next time? And I think that's as best we can do, really.
Yeah. And so I'm in a phase of learning what self-care I'm going to need now because I mainly travel to like London and Europe, not really in different time zones. But there's something about being away from your house and the work I'm not doing when I'm there and the things that the adulting that needs catching up on. I'm realizing I need to make a little bit more time. And so, my PT is the thing that went this week, but I'm okay with that because I might get on the Peloton. Yeah. But going to my PT is a good few hours out of my day because it's a bit of a drive. It's a bit of time. And I just thought, and it was early and I thought, no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to take care of myself. I thought it would have actually made me feel more stressed.
Yeah.
And so, and I think about self-care in this way, Maddie, because we both talk about boundaries a lot. Self-care is the boundaries we have with ourselves.
Yes.
And I think having boundaries with yourself, I actually think it's harder than putting boundaries in with other people. You know, as hairdressers, we often think about putting boundaries in with clients, but I think I would make sense of self-care as the boundaries you have with yourself. What do you say yes and no to? What are you doing for yourself? Yeah. And I think that's hard.
It's really hard. And like, I think I always sort of say, I run a loose ship. Like I can go, I'm going to do this, but then I'm like, hey, have the day off. I'm a cool boss. Don't do any work today. And then I'm like, oh, I wish I did the work because now I've got more to do. So boundaries.
I think it's taught. I kind of figured out, and I think this is a bit of an ADHD thing. It's something I struggled with all the time, but I'm no good with no structure and I'm no good with loads of structure.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I've figured out I need a small amount of structure.
Yeah.
And if I have a small amount of structure, I find motivation and I will then do all the other stuff I've got to do. And so what I've really figured out now is the small amount of structure I have in my life, it's not around work, it's around the self-care stuff. Because when I do that, the other stuff flows. Do
you know what is funny?
Yeah.
You've just made me realize that that's exactly what I do, but I didn't know that I did it. So like my things that are in, I remember when I first started working with my coach and she was like, oh, what does a week look like? And I remember feeling embarrassed because I was like, oh my God, I do nothing. I just have like one call with my OBM and like there wasn't really any structured things in, but I was like, I know I'm doing loads. I feel knackered. Like I know I do a lot of work, but it just got done when it got done. Whereas now my structured things, apart from that meeting, it's all self-care stuff. And that'll, for me, take priority. But you're totally right. Like I cancelled PT yesterday, mainly because I'd had aesthetics done. And she said, have a day off, Maddie. And I thought, yeah, okay. Because I did 5 days last week and I was like, 3 would be nice. So I did. And actually I slept in and it was amazing. And I felt so much better for it. And I got 2 PBs to do. So it obviously works to have a little day off to refresh. But Yeah, and
I was like, I had to think then, what's a person? I was like, a PB, it's a personal best.
Personal
it took
best.
me a minute.
Two
For anyone else who
deadlifts off
doesn't
the
go to the
bounce.
gym as much as Maddie, it's a personal best.
Just being hench. So it obviously
But
did
it's
us
true,
the world
isn't
of good,
it?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the walking becomes the structure, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like you walk a lot and you're meeting your
Yeah.
friends. But I think really for us with the ADHD, that gives us the dopamine to then have the energy to do the other stuff.
Yeah. And it's like doing them at the beginning of the day. So like when I look at my diary, it's like get up 5, do that till quarter 7, and I'll put in a walk. So I either do like I'll walk on the treadmill or I'll come home and walk. So while I've still got decent weather, I'm like I'll just get out and do that. And I know that the rest doesn't need to be that structured. You're totally right. This makes perfect sense because I'll come back and be in such a good state and like ready to sort of approach the day. Whereas when I wasn't doing those, I would kind of just get out of bed whenever and then be like, what am I even doing today? And then I'd get really overwhelmed or I'd go, I'm having a chill day, but I had I'd not looked at what I had to do or my tasks or whatever. So yeah, that's really funny. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. I just didn't know that I was doing it.
Yeah, but it's so interesting because when you understand why you're doing it as well, it's even more motivating to keep doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, now I'm like...
But it's that thing of, if the structure if you feel like you're someone with not a lot of structure, now if you're behind the chair, you're going to feel like you've got too much structure most of the time. I felt like I had too much structure. I felt like I know what I'm doing every hour of the day for the next 6 months, which felt quite overwhelming. But if you're maybe educating and have more of a loose structure like we are, putting some structure around your self-care is going to be really helpful. But also if you're behind the chair and you feel like you're short of time, making sure you save some energy for that self-care is just vital.
Yeah.
This is what I think.
Definitely. And
it's funny, isn't it, how it's so important but easily overlooked.
Yeah, completely. Because we put more importance on like the productivity stuff, like the actual output stuff. But really, you need to have that input to yourself to like be able to have a good output.
Yeah,
and there was
my productivity is good when I self-care. That's it.
Yeah, literally. If you want to actually be the most productive, which a lot of people do, or be able to work the hardest, you actually need to do this stuff. It's like fuel in the tank, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly that.
And there was one other shout out that I forgot to mention before. Therapy, the greatest act of self-care.
Oh my God, yeah.
And on the back of that, obviously, totally to echo what you're saying about boundaries with yourself, super important. But again, for me, one of the greatest acts of self-care is boundaries with other people, especially as like a recovering people pleaser. Because there was certain cases where it was just draining me in a really big way. So having firm boundaries, just like tapped into this well of like energy and capacity. I didn't realize how much capacity was being given to those situations until the boundary was in, and I thought, oh shit, I've got so much more like energy and capacity. Yeah,
I'll go to the gym at 5:45 now. I've got all this
because I'm not worrying about this particular situation or dynamic or whatever. So I am interested in, you mentioned some rules or some levels, some rules. I want to hear them. I want to know what your basic
honestly, they're so ridiculous. I talk about them, so some people listening might have heard my rules because I talk about them every now and again, but they're actually so basic, they're laughable. But what's funny about them is I have lived without this, and when I don't, what I wanted to figure out was what is the bare minimum I need to do, because sometimes we're in the bare minimum zone. At the moment, I'm like on the Peloton, I'm on the ice tub, it's happening. I've got other self-care going on, but I have an absolute bare minimum bottom line. And when times are hard, I make sure this happens. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what it is. My first one is don't eat more than 2 pieces of toast a day.
That is so funny. But I totally get that.
It's so ridiculous. However, and I would say lockdown was particularly when things went quite crazy for me as well. I remember having a day where I ate 8 pieces of toast a day. That's what I did.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had no energy. Totally but no wonder. It's toast all day.
Chicken and eggs.
I had so little capacity for self-care that I ate toast constantly to try and keep going. And I know that it's obviously terrible for you to just live on toast. And I know that because I'm smart enough, but I do it sometimes. And it's because I'm either really focused on doing something, I'm hyper-focusing so I forget to eat, or I'm so burnt out and exhausted that I've got no energy to plan, buy food. And so what I know is if I only allow myself to eat 2 pieces of toast a day, my other decisions will be better.
I love that.
And so it's a bottom line that I have. It's so basic.
And I bet
the other one I have.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I bet those 2 pieces of toast
yet.
are more delicious because you go, these are the only 2 pieces that I'm going to eat today.
Yeah, and when I'm eating them, I think, this is your lot, Hayley. What are you going to eat for your next meal?
Yeah.
Because it can't be this again. It's not allowed. And so it kind of just makes me think a little bit more. And I know that when it's going beyond that, I know that if I'm going, I'm eating another 2 pieces of toast again, because sometimes I think this isn't good. Yeah. And it's a sign to me that I'm on the road to burnout because I've not made good. There's no food in my fridge. I'm not making time for myself and my energy and stuff. And so I use it as like a red flag. It's so basic. It's laughable. And then one of my other rules for life is see my friends in person. And I sort of say this once in the week and once at the weekend. That's kind of the loose rules that I have. And sometimes that changes. I might see them twice in the week and maybe work a bit at the weekend because I took a day to see my friends and stuff. But essentially, sort of spread out through the week, I try and see my friends in person twice because I live on my own. I work from home. I can get very isolated if I'm not careful. And I really like quite a lot of alone time, actually. But my mood is, a million times better when I see my friends in person twice a week. Coffee, a walk, going out for dinner and drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get that.
It's massive.
I think,
I pay attention to that. It's my structure. When I'm looking at my weeks, I'm like, when am I going to see people? And I structure everything around it. And if I can't see my friends at the weekend, but they're available in the week for some reason, I will work at the weekend to make sure I see them in the week.
Yeah, it goes into the priorities. Yeah.
It's massive for me. My mental health goes downhill very quickly, actually, when I don't do that stuff.
And I know we've spoken about this on the podcast before, which is about where we sometimes, I think it was on the Unpaid Therapist episode, where you were saying that sometimes we meet needs in our clients, like when we're behind the chair. And, I'm thinking of the people in particular who I work with in Breakthrough, and they're like so busy, like beyond booked out. And one thing that comes up when I'm, chatting with them before joining is they just do not see their friends. Like they barely see their partner, they barely see their kids. They certainly don't see their friends because their family comes, before that. And I think that's when we can really veer into crossing lines with clients and, blurry boundaries and the therapy.
Making them your friends because you're lonely.
Yeah, because you just think, well, I'm not going to see them outside of work. So I think it's just so important. Is there any more?
Yeah, and then I have one more rule.
Yeah.
I have one more rule. And it's really, it used to be bigger and now it's gotten more basic, and it's do something for my body every day. Because I set the standard a bit high once upon a time when I was failing. And so now it is literally do something for my body every day. And so at the moment I'm in a phase where I'm a bit tired and I've been traveling a lot, and I'm not getting on the Peloton today. The thing I did for my body today was I did some stretching, and I feel better for it. My body felt horrible from, traveling and all the things. But that's it. Do something for my body every day. Sometimes it's the Peloton and an ice bath. Sometimes it's a walk. Sometimes it's just doing 5 minutes of stretching because that's what I had the energy for. But I do something every day. That's it. It's my really basic bottom line, Maddie. Hopefully I'm often doing much more than that, but I'm always doing that. And when I feel that I'm really getting burnt out or my mood's getting low, I check on those 3 things.
Yeah. I feel like, do you know, there's the books like Rules for Life. We need a Hayley's 3 Rules for Life, but it's like a postcard, just 3 things. We don't need to make a whole novel about it.
It's not a big song and dance. I think it's not elaborate. It's really basic. And I think when we remember that self-care is basic and most of it's free, it's much easier to do. But I think we really have to understand why it matters. Yeah. And I truly believe it's the foundation for everything. And I like what you said. If you want to be more productive, lean into your self-care, not into more productivity. You've got to have capacity to do all of this. And that's what I talk about a lot is if you want to be successful long term, you've got to get good at your self-care or you will just keep burning out and be so frustrated with yourself. But when my capacity, like a couple of weeks ago, my capacity self-care was a lot bigger and it's shrunk this week and I'm in basic zone. But when I'm doing it more, I'm on the Peloton every morning. It's I get up, I'm on the Peloton, I'm in my ice bath, which I absolutely love. It's so good, dopamine heavy, an ice bath. It's just so much fun. It's like you going in the sea, isn't it, though? Yeah. You know? But one thing that I did recently was I joined a choir. I've been talking about this everywhere, but it's brilliant. It means I get to, a couple of my friends go. We can't always make it every week, but, you know, I go, I meet new people. Singing's amazing for bringing your adrenaline down and it's joyful. And it means I get to see my friends midweek because they go as well. And so I did that as an act of self-care for myself. I thought, a choir is self-care.
I love it. And, you know, I love the efficiency of stacking things on. Like one of my best friends trains at the same time. So I'm like, I can see them. If I'm there, that ticks 2 boxes. And then sometimes we'll go, oh, should we have a walk after this? So we tag another thing on. Or I'll obviously love listening to a podcast. So if I'm going for a walk, I'll do that. Or I'll speak to you. And I think that's a nice social interaction thing. So because I love doing 8 different things at once. But I think stacking. Yeah, habit stacking, very Jim's clear vibes. And I just like the word that you used about capacity. I think that's for me is what it feels like, is creating more capacity through taking care of yourself. To use it for. Yeah, and but also respecting the capacity you've got. Yeah. And what I'm having to lean into this week is respecting the fact that my capacity is not as big as I hoped it would be. Yeah. And instead of pushing, I'm really respecting it, and I'm not doing some of the things that I would normally do self-care wise because my routine had gotten bigger. I've brought it back down to the basics, but I won't let the basics go because that goes the opposite way then. No more toast. Capacity is really important to think about. I love that. Thank you. I've not had any toast yet, but there'll certainly be some toast today. But I'm sure there will be. You're making me. I had some toast yesterday. I was thrilled about it. And I love that they're all. Toast. I love that all your things are free as well, because I think when, like you say, when you're in the space to be doing the spa days and all of that, but grand if that's your thing. But sometimes it's literally walking around the block, having a shower, walking around the block's free, having a shower, leaving someone, your house, ringing your mate, doing some stretching. Yeah. Getting in the sea, that's free. I haven't been in the sea for months. I know. No, what's happening with that, Maddie? I think it became apparent that I was like the ringleader of the sea. So back when I had back surgery, everyone stopped going. It also was like November, so probably a nice time to stop. And just like ever since then, we're very easy to be talked out of it. So like if someone will suggest it and they'll go, we could go in the sea or we could have a cuppa, and then someone will be like, oh yeah, I don't want to be cold because I've got this other thing. So we all just talk each other out of it really easily. But I miss it, and I know it's a bit like gym, isn't it? You hate the idea of it, but when you do it, it is. I mean, that for me was just the greatest thing. I really want to come up to Newcastle and get in the sea with you. I just think it'd be so fun. I want to come honestly. And get in there. And we've got like amazing coffee shops and breakfasts, and it's so good. We're so lucky to be here. But I walk past and I see everyone swimming like every day, and I'm like, oh, I really need to get back to it. But I wonder if you've kind of replaced it with the gym for now. I think so. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah. But also your body's, back-wise and stuff. I'm talking about here in better shape, and so better. Maybe at the time you were in the sea a lot, lifting weights just was not on your radar. Like I remember dreaming that I would be well enough to get a Peloton because my back was so bad I couldn't walk for more than 10 minutes. Yeah.
And so I wonder if maybe it's about that, Maddie, as well. Your capacity is bigger, so you're doing more.
Totally that. And I found that actually the cold really helped my back, because I don't know, just some science related thing, but that really helped me in that period, whereas like my back now is so good. In fact, my trainer today was like, he was like, when your back plays nice, it plays really nice, because it was like deadlifts that we were doing today. And I was so like psychologically happy, because I was like, this is amazing. And I want to continue with this now. So yeah, if it's a choice of either one, I'll do the gym, but I'll get back to it, because I do miss it. I just get jealous.
It's dopamine heavy, isn't it?
So good. You just feel
so dopamine heavy.
You hate it, and then it gets to like 2 minutes, and you're like, this is the greatest feeling on earth, and it's free. And
I know. I mean, I get in my ice tub when I come back from my trainer or after the Peloton, because I think it's good for my back as well.
Yeah.
Because it's good for the inflammation. And so I find my back's not aching and stuff like that. And so it's a total double whammy. But honestly, I'm so about the ice bath right now.
Look at us, regular Wim Hofs over here. I love it.
I know. It's so funny. People think I'm crackers, but I really like it.
Well, when I did that ice bath thing on the beach, where it was literally full of ice, and they were Wim Hof trained people, so they did the proper breathing, and that was just incredible. They did a whole like day around it, and you did like a gong bath.
I did the course as well. I think we did it around the same time, didn't we?
That was mint. I just can't be asked to make that many ice cubes. I use them all for iced coffees, so I've got no more ice capacity in my house.
It's really hard keeping an ice bath cold, is what I've discovered. Keeping it cold is a really full-time job. It's really hard in the summer. Mine went up to about 26 degrees at one point. It was useless.
This is just a bath.
So I was like, this is a hot tub.
Yeah, and we don't have any outside space. I don't even have an actual bath, so I can't do that, but I do have the sea, so it's no excuse really.
You do have the sea. I'd rather have the sea, but I have an ice bath on my deck.
I'll wrangle the crew.
So that's us.
That's us, Jen. Do we have...
That's our self-care.
Do we have...
it's not as fancy.
No, it's really not. But I love that about it.
It's not fancy.
Do we have a shameless plug today?
I totally have a shameless plug. I do. I'm still promoting my free webinar on the 14th of November called From Snowed Under to Slaying It.
Yay.
It's a free webinar for everyone. It's all about how to avoid burnout in the Christmas season. And so sign up for that. It's free. You can sign up via the show notes of this podcast or my Instagram bio. But I ran this last year. It's a brilliant, brilliant workshop. And even if when you're listening to this, you're thinking, I'm already fully booked through Christmas, there's nothing she can do for me. There is. This workshop is designed for people who are already fully booked with no wiggle room. How can you look after yourself under those conditions?
Yeah.
And so no matter what, this workshop will be great for you if you're in the hair and beauty industry. Coming into what I call silly season.
Season.
Yes.
Prepare yourself.
Thanks for reminding me, Maddie.
Always here for the shameless plug, Claxon. Hyperfocus.
Let's hyperfocus.
Yeah. What's
yours?
Mine is knitwear. I am very much committed to this season. On the back of me, the colour analysis I'm still obsessed with. I went to Tesco this morning. I love having a little potter around the old F&F. And I've got it on now. I've got like a nice off-white.
So good.
They're very good. I think they're good quality, good price.
Hop over to YouTube to see Maddie's new cardi.
Yeah, it's like an off-white, very fleecy,
very nice.
And it's long because I like them to cover my bum and I'm a tall person. And then I got another one which is like a kind of tan camel-y sort of colour, but I just love being snuggly this time of year. I've got my fleecy socks out. It's nearly time for my... I'll not say the word, but my F the Tories Christmas jumper, that's nearly on there in the rotation. Maybe end of November that'll come out.
I think you should just get that jumper on this week. Yeah. They're everywhere, getting on my nerves at the minute.
They've got another one coming out this year and it's Santa Hates Tories, which I thought...
I think I'm going to treat myself this year, Maddie.
I think you should get one. That one's a bit more appropriate because I was wearing my F the Tories like out and about, and I thought, I don't really care, but I thought this is like children. I don't want to upset them.
I think I might invest in that one.
Yeah, so that's from Topple and Burn.
Just
all
every day.
Every day, literally, summer.
Yes, just wear it every day.
So
Maybe they need a t-shirt version.
Knitwear, snuggly things, and my electric fleecy blanket is back. Only on a number 3. Let's not go crazy, but it's back because it's starting to get on the turn now up here. It's getting a bit cold. So I'm in a...
It's getting cold, isn't it?
Cozy
It is.
season.
It's getting totally cold.
What's yours?
My hyper-focus is the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
There are so many.
They're my favourite housewives.
I have not seen
I love the Salt Lake City housewives. They're amazing. I'll tell you why I like them. I mean, they're crackers and they're really interesting. But I think I like it because, like, Utah, I don't know much about that. I like seeing about Utah. But what I really like about the housewives of Salt Lake City is it's cold. And so I like to see what they're wearing in the cold.
Yeah.
Because I live in a cold place, and often these housewife programs, they're always somewhere boiling, swanning around in a mini dress. And I'm like, no, what do you do when it snows all the time and it's freezing? What are you wearing?
Glam ladies,
so I like to see how do you do glam in the snow? And so I'm really fascinated by that. They are just bonkersly brilliant as well. And so many ex-Mormons talking about that and how they were disturbed by stuff. And I find all that sort of thing interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it taps into that sort of I mean, I'm obsessed with cults. I'm not saying the Mormons are a cult, but they sometimes talk about it in that way.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
and I find all that.
The two things that come to mind, and apologies if anyone's listening from Utah, you can educate us. Mormons and pyramid schemes, massive. MLM is huge in Utah. Absolutely.
Sure.
All of the big dogs, all of the wide brim hat girlies, the top of the pyramid, the triangle-shaped opportunities, Utah. And I wonder if there is some connection between the Mormon thing, like culturally, whatever, like, I don't know. But for some reason, I just know this is a thing, is that Utah is a really big place for MLM. So I wonder if any of the housewives are like pyramid queens. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the housewives went to prison, not for a pyramid queen, for fraud in a really big way.
Was that
She went to prison last series. No, she's from New Jersey. I don't watch New Jersey. This was Jen Shah, who's the Salt Lake City one. It was for kind of a fraud thing. It was for stealing data and then doing something dodgy with it.
I feel like Teresa's was fraud. I have a photo with her because she was an ambassador for a hair extension brand that I used, and she was at like one of the shows and was like, "Come and get a photo," and I was like, "Yes." So I have a photo with Big T.
I will.
And then I don't know. I didn't know who she was because I didn't watch the show. And then someone was like, "Oh, her and her husband commit some sort of like tax fraud or something." But I think she threw a table, I heard, but I don't know. No judgment.
I mean, she likes to flip a table over, I believe.
Who
Teresa.
doesn't?
I don't watch. I'm going to start doing that. I don't watch Jersey. I only watched a couple of the housewives, but I absolutely love the Salt Lake City ones, and they're back, and so I'm thrilled with that.
I need to get into
what I also know about Utah, Maddie, is I think it's really good for business taxes.
Yes,
and so a lot of people move to Utah because it's good for their business.
Yes, I know a little bit about this. There's Delaware, Nevada, I think I want to say Utah, because in the US you have federal tax and you have state tax. So it's a bit like if in here we paid tax, but then you paid like a local tax. So if you paid like I paid like a Tyneside tax, or whatever. So yeah, I know a lot of people who move their business out of California to Nevada because it's just next door. To save on that. Very interesting. I feel like if we have any Utahrian listeners, make yourselves known. Come on down, we'll speak to you. Teach us about your places.
I know. I mean, we know Elizabeth Faye. She's from Utah.
Yeah.
Lovely Elizabeth Faye. Yeah, I might ask her a couple of questions. Yeah. But Utah looks beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like maybe my hyperfocus is actually Utah.
It sounds maybe like it is, and maybe we could do like less. I feel like I'm learning. I hope those listening are like, this is a thrilling educational piece. Who knew we could learn so much through Real Housewives? What a joy!
Do you know what I do? I like seeing what it's like and stuff. And Utah, to me, mainly what I think about it is they've got a lot of space. As someone who lives in Manchester, I look at Utah and think, you've got a lot of space.
Yeah.
The houses are big, the streets are big, the pavements are massive.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're on top of each other here.
Let's shift. Let's get those nice low taxes, Hayley.
Yeah, I think I might have a little think about Utah. But yeah, essentially, if you're not into the Real Wives of any of the Real Housewives, I would highly recommend the Salt Lake City ladies. They're highly entertaining. And I think I like watching Housewives because I get all my drama in the Housewives and I don't feel a need for much drama in my life.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
I use up all my gossipy, silly things on them.
The need
and I talk about it with my mum because my mum loves it. And we gossip about that. And then I feel like I don't need to do that about real people in my world.
Meet your needs in a healthy way.
A good thing.
A very Hayley.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I've thought about this. I thought, why do I love this program? But I think that's what it is. So yeah, I'm all about the Salt Lake City ladies. It's dripping one a week at the minute, which is hard.
Can't deal with that.
But
and will you tell me when it's finished so I can watch them all in a day? Because I can't wait.
You can just binge.
I forget who everyone is. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. And I'll catch up and I'll
give you
Not
too far off because I started it a bit late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how I feel about
Honestly,
maths. I just cannot deal with one a night. So I'm angry about that.
Yeah, it's too much.
This has been wonderful. It's always wonderful. And thank you. I'll catch you on next week.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Maddie. See you later.
See ya.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us and check out Timely, who we recommend as our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with the code COFFEE50.